Hi, welcome to chapter 15. This is a very long chapter, so I'm not going to read everything, but here we go. Psychological disorders. Psychological disorders, it's a syndrome characterized by clinically significant disturbance in an individual's cognition, emotional regulation, or behavior that reflects a dysfunction in the psychological, biological, or developmental process underlying mental function. Culture expectations, we have social norms. We talked about that in the previous chapter. Harmful dysfunction, this is the proposed definition of psychological disorder by Wakefield. That's like a phobia taking over your life. The American Psychiatric Association, the APA, it gives 4 different definitions. Diagnosing and classifying psychological disorders. I'm trying to move the camera angle around so I'm not covering up anything, but you do have all the slides. The diagnostic and statistical manual of mental disorders. There's that chart. Okay, so the International Classification of Diseases, the ICD, is put out by the WHO, World Health Organization. Moving on. The compassionate view of psychological disorders. I'm going to let y'all read that. Again, these slides are available. Perspectives on psychological disorders. Supernatural perspectives of psychological disorders. The Salem witch trials. If you do a deep dive into that, it's crazy. Some Nigerian cultures still believe in mental illnesses caused by the supernatural. Biological perspectives of psychological disorders. Some factors are largely due to genetic factors. So as we get into more of the disorders, you'll see the genetic factors in play. If you come from an obese family and are predispositioned to be obese, that is the diathesis. And then a global pandemic happens, stress. The stress causes you to eat and become obese. So the diathesis stress model of psychological disorders. Anxiety disorders. Anxiety is a persistent fear and anxiety that causes a disturbance in your behavior. Phobias. Phobia is a fear, and there are some fears there. Acquisition of phobias through learning, classical conditioning, vicarious learning, verbal transmission. It's like somebody else tells you they're scared of spiders, you become scared of spiders too. A social anxiety disorder is characterized by extreme and persistent fear or anxiety and avoidance of social situations. Panic disorder, this is what happens when you have a panic disorder. Generalized anxiety disorder, a relatively continuous state of excessive, uncontrollable, and pointless worry and apprehension. Obsessive compulsive disorder is OCD. OCD is experience thoughts, to experience thoughts and urges that are intrusive and unwanted. That's the obsessions. And or the need to engage in repetitive behaviors. That's the compulsion. Body dysmorphic syndrome. It's when you don't see your body the way it really is. Hoarding. Most of us have seen the TLC show. This is the causes of OCD. These are the parts of the brain that are affected. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder started out on soldiers, but now has been linked to other groups, especially rape victims. Risk factors associated with PTSD, combat, rape, sexual molestation. Understand the role of learning and cognitive factors in its development. PTSD learning model suggests that some symptoms are developed and maintained through classical conditioning. Mood disorders. Distinguish normal states of sadness and euphoria and states of depression and mania. Depression and mania are both defined there. Describe the symptoms of major depressive disorder and bipolar disorder. Major depressive disorder, you're depressed most days, nearly every day, feeling sad, empty, hopelessness. Bipolar disorder, commonly known as manic depression, often experiences mood states that go between depression and mania. And mania is when somebody is really happy or they go on a spending spree. They act very quickly. Understand the difference between major depressive disorder and persistent depressive disorder, and identify 2 subtypes of depression. Those are there. Define the criteria for a manic episode. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. During a manic episode, some experience a mood that is almost euphoric and become excessive talking, spontaneously starting conversations with strangers. They can become irritable just at a drop of a dime, or make hostile comments. Here is what happens with your neurons in people that are bipolar. They're your neurotransmitters, I'm sorry. Discuss the relationship between mood disorders and suicidal ideation, as well as factors associated with suicide. I will let y'all read that. Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is not a condition involving split personality. That's DID. Schizophrenia is when you are scared that your mom is listening to your phone calls and reporting you to the FBI. There are a lot of paranoia. Here are the symptoms of schizophrenia: hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thoughts, abnormal motor behavior, negative symptoms that increase or decrease certain behaviors. Understand the interplay between genetic, biological, and environmental factors that are associated with the development of schizophrenia. I'm going to let you read that, but it is alarmingly genetic. It's 6 times greater if one parent has schizophrenia that you'll have schizophrenia. Discuss the importance of research. We all know the importance of research. It's very important because we can predict and we can help and all that good stuff. Dissociative disorders. Dissociative disorders are characterized by an individual becoming split off. This is the DID. Dissociative amnesia is when a person is unable to recall important events. I'll let you, well, this is the last one, is the one I was talking about. Dissociative identity disorder, formerly known as multiple personality disorder. We'll talk about that. DID, people who have been found to have DID were physically or sexually abused as children. There is strong evidence that traumatic experiences can cause these people to disassociate from reality. And that's how they have an extra personality. It's their way of escaping. Personality disorders. We've talked about this already. Here are all the personality disorders and the clusters. Identify the basic features of borderline personality disorder and antisocial personality disorder and the factors that are important in the etiology of both. That is all right there. Childhood disorders, ADHD, attention deficit disorder, and autism spectrum disorder. ADHD is when they can't sit still. They're very disorganized children. Autism spectrum disorder is neurodiverse children. They struggle with social aspects. They struggle with repetitive behaviors. They struggle with talking about something that's not a preferred topic to them. And here are all the developments for ADHD from past to present, and autism spectrum disorder. And that concludes chapter 15. Thanks.